Mr. President, the executives of Icelandair, and all of you, thank you for inviting me and giving me the chance to speak to you about something which normally people doesn't like to talk about profits, but I think it was very well introduced by the President and the Chairman that yes, we need profits if we want to make things sustainable. So let's talk about profits. But before that, I want to show you my own pictures. And this is my teenager daughter taking these pictures this last summer of your beautiful country, isn't it? So I was very proud of her preparing this selection of pictures, and I really want to congratulate you for your beautiful and unique country. Starting with that, but then going quickly into the point of, well, but the key question is, how can we make this a profitable and sustainable tourist destination? And you probably know I'm coming from Barcelona because I was introduced as from Barcelona, not Spain. I hope that becomes true someday. Maybe we are closer now to that, given to the independentist movement which is growing in my country. But yeah, but not everybody is very happy with the tourism that we have, and we don't know if that was sustainable, and we don't know if it is profitable. So these two questions you are making yourselves are very important and very pertinent. But of course, I don't have the answer. I do not know, but even if I knew, I wouldn't tell you. Because I think this is in fact a question that the Icelanders need to discuss themselves. This is a very profound question that not only belongs to the tourist industry, belongs to the whole community, because the assets in which the tourist industry is built belong to the whole community. So I think, you are asking yourselves at this moment the typical questions that everybody asks at this moment. It is, do we want to be the Machu Picchu, the pyramids? All of these are very unique assets as well. I mean, very few people have pyramids, only in Egypt, This is one kind of tourism. We attract a large number of visitors to a unique asset, or the Machu Picchu in Peru. Or you want to be the Antarctica or Galapagos, which you attract a very limited number of people to a unique asset. I mean, like in every consultant's matrix, there are two different worlds here. Which one do you want to be? None of them is better than the other one, but they are both very different. And the problem is when you try to be both at the same time. It doesn't work very well. Egypt gets, this is numbers before the spring, before the Arab Spring, 9.1 million tourists, $7.6 billion, $835 per tourist. That's not bad. That was a very important part of their economy. Galapagos gets 150,000 tourists. They leave $150 million, $1,000 per tourist. That's not bad either. Where are you going to be? What is your target? Again, I do not have the answer. Every one of you, and this is the exercise I understand everybody is claiming for. I mean, I thought, of course, I wrote my slides before hearing the other presenters, but I could say that I don't need to preach this. You are all here, I suppose, because you understand that this is the moment to make this decision. I don't have the answers, but the tool to arrive to these answers, we have it. They have been proved, they have been tested. It's a standard. This is not an industry that is new. This is not what's going to happen. I mean, in geothermal, we still have to develop many of the markets. We still don't know many of the potential applications. But this industry, is one of the oldest industries. Of course, there are many changes that we have seen, but this is a standard. We know what is happening. So there are tools which have been developed on how do you analyze tourism, how do you analyze what is profit, what is sustainable, what kind of value chains you need to build. All these things are standard. So all you need to do is, I would say, kind of stop talking and get down to the numbers. Because as the President said, if you don't have the right numbers, you're not going to get the right answers. The analysis process to understand what is profitable or not, it's a standard. We do it in consulting. Every consulting company in the world uses some steps. Now it has been even standardized by the European Union, by the World Bank, saying that this is the process, even the process of public-private dialogue. It's nice that, you made this offer in this environment, but maybe the environment of a 600 people meeting is not the best one to reach an agreement between the public and the private sector. Maybe you need a process. This is a process, a structured process called the Competitiveness Reinforcement Initiative. It's standardized, it tells you how to meet, how to work. So this can be done now. So it's a matter of you getting to do that. But what is the key of all these issues? The key, and here I did not select the topic of profitability. It was a proposal from Halder in Icelandair. And I think this is a very good thing because we want to be in something that keeps the highest margin. And what does it give me the highest margin? This tool was developed by our common friend Michael Porter much before he talked about clusters. This is basically his doctoral thesis in 1979. It was published for the first time in the 80s. And it basically was used by the big corporations to decide in what business they put the money and what business they took the money away. Okay. Basically saying, I am Westinghouse or I am General Electric, where do I make more money? In power stations or in home appliances? If I don't make money in home appliances, I'll sell that division to somebody else and I focus this. The difficulty in tourism or in countries, we cannot sell the country and focus something else. So we need always to try to get the maximum profitability of the assets that we have. The questions are very simple. The vertical axis of the 5 forces says, is there a minimum margin in this business? Is there a good margin? And the horizontal, which is basically a function of if there are strong barriers to entry, very difficult for people to enter into this business, and there are very few substitutes. If that happens, then you are in a good business, but there is margin there. And who keeps the margin? Me, or my suppliers, or my clients. You can think of many industries where my client is so powerful that he keeps the margin. These 5 forces gives us a very clear answer about is there a margin and who keeps it. Let's see what's happening in tourism, which are, every tourist segment is different, but there are 2 fundamental trends that have changed the rules of the game in tourism. And that's why, the things that you were doing 20 years ago and the things you're doing today have nothing to do, because the structural change has been. The first one is the barriers to entry have fallen. I mean, who ever thought, 20 years ago that, my neighbor from Barcelona, which is a retired couple that had a small manufacturing plant, will go to Tahiti and to they will know, of course, they've been in New Zealand and Vietnam, and so, the way to arrive to any place in the world, the barriers to entry, the new players coming into the game, are unbelievable. And this because what? Because mainly low-cost airlines, the falling cost of air travel has opened the possibilities. And this is good news for unique destinations. Well, this is bad news for unique destinations. Because as you can say, you probably thought that some of the landscapes here could be the same thing as the landscapes in New Zealand. And, we normally do this game of putting a lot of pictures and asking you which one is your country. And sometimes you have difficulty to find which one is your country, Because everybody has, I'm sorry to say, but everybody has very nice waterfalls and everybody has, things that you could compare. So that's a bad thing. And the substitute products is the worst because, the number of substitute products in tourism has been increasing. There are many more alternatives and there are many more things that look the same. So this is the bad news in tourism and affects to any segment and to any destination. But there are also, let's say that means that the margin is less, almost for everybody. But another big change has happened. And this is, I think, the more significant opportunity. This is a positive change. The internet has changed the balance of power from those big tour operators that we had to go before and bend in front of them and ask them, please put me in your destination, put me in your catalog for next year, or we are killed. And then, this German guy will decide yes or not, and then you were in or out for the rest of your life. This has changed. Now the power is with the consumer, not with us. but at least we can get to that consumer, one by one. And then another incredible change, which is we used to have the client visit us, the tourist, the visitor, for 1 week, for 3 days, for 28 days if you were lucky. And he went, and that's it. Now that person, and you show it, will be in that Facebook with us forever. We can keep the connection with that person that enjoyed our country or our destination always. That person doesn't disappear. That person becomes an address and becomes a way to communicate. This changes our industry from being an industry of hit and go to an industry of falling in love. Very different industry. So, tourist industry today, with the new technologies and with these new rules, has nothing to do with the tourist industry of 5 years ago. Because 5 years ago, we did not have these possibilities. Look at the first point, the barriers to entry. I also looked at Google, and here I didn't put booking in Iceland, I put Iceland. What is unique about us? If we put Iceland, and we Google, and remember the way Google is built, these are the pictures that people is selecting more when they look the word Iceland. Okay? Well, 3 of them are from the Blue Lagoon. This environmental disaster turned into a successful business. No? So, well, that's what people think. One, it is a plant, the plant. We don't choose this image. We don't do it. It is the consumers, hundreds of consumers looking at images from Iceland, which will come to that. No? How can we influence this or not? Well, I suppose this is what is being done with these advertising campaigns, but the power of this internet, it's very difficult to influence something like this. You need a lot of money. On the other side, we can influence person by person, group by group, that have an interest, that are interested in kayaking, and we can extend why kayaking is better here than in another place, or they're interested in one specific thing. The image for Antarctica is very clear. Penguins. So the people associate Antarctica with penguins. Galapagos is horrible, are all these turtles and these ugly animals that people associate. And then I couldn't resist looking for my own town, and this is, even if was not introduced, I'm an architect, and I think that my town has a lot of cultural values, Barcelona. But guess what Barcelona image is associated? I suppose you all get it. A football team. The changing room of Barca, which is a smelly, sweaty place where the guys change, is the second highest visited museum in the country. Sad, isn't it? And the Sagrada Familia, which is, like trying to finish a pyramid 200 years later, is the number 1. Did we choose that? Did tourism of Barcelona did that? Did the public-private sector? No, you will never have seen that we put this in the ads, But that's what the people build. So it is very difficult to play with this idea of, being unique, having something unique. So that is the negative part of these changes, but the positive part is something which also I think I've seen before. The internet has changed this balance of power. We've seen that everybody now goes, that Facebook hits you are getting in there, they are not only getting it at the end of the trip, they are getting it during the trip, right during the experience. The people is using their PDA, and we are doing it less, but imagine in 5 years from now, when my 16-year-old is at 25 and goes with this PDA, it will immediately transmit what is happening to all of her friends. So every time you have a good restaurant, a good experience, you are multiplying that immediately by 200 people in the world, in very different locations, which will know that that's great. That's a very different way of creating an image. And you trust much more your friend telling you that that was good than going to Google it, internet. So this is going to change completely the way we think about tourism. As an example, I'm putting an example. When you did your Google for that, remember what came on top? A company called eDreams. eDreams, just go over this. eDreams is an online travel agent. It's the #1 in Spain. It was created by 2 students from my business school. They sell 6,000 air tickets every day. They had 4.5 million users, and every weekend they send 1.5 million customized newsletters with specific offers for golf lovers, for theater goers, and making the offers that you can go from your destination. All that is information technology, you know. And this is only, they are already the #2 overall travel agent in Spain. The #1 is Corte Inglés, this big department store. And they are the #2 already. Founded 12 years ago, and 8 years ago they were bankrupt. They were rescued because they were too early. Okay? But we are talking of 5-6 years. Things have changed radically. These guys were nobody. Today they're running the business. And when you did your Google, they came on top and they offered trips to Iceland for 19 euros. No. So, is these people tourism people? Are these hoteliers? Do they know how to serve, wine or cook? These are IT geeks. Where are they? How many IT people in the meeting? How many people which come, say your CEO comes from Yahoo? I think you understand very well in your country what is needed now, because what is important today in this game change is not the tourist experience while the person is there. The value chain has changed completely. We need people at the beginning, which are making, managing this information prior to the trip. The prior to the trip is much more important than ever. This is where the things are being decided and cooked by references, by building up brand individually. You said, I think Icelandair has done a very good, targeted campaign in internet. At least when you open something, you are there, no? But then also the post-trip. I mean, we cannot let these people go. We need to create these communities. We need to maintain these communities. This is already very developed in the event industry. In the past, we had congress organizers. We built a big congress house, normally with public money, and then we expected congresses to come. No? I don't know anything about your country. Don't smile. Okay? Now the big congress organized companies, basically they go to the Odontologist Association of America and they tell you how many members you have. It's okay. Look, I'm going to handle all your receipts. I'm going to send all your newsletter. I'm going to take care of all your association. And I will also organize all your annual meetings. Every year in a different place. So now Vienna and Geneva are the key hubs for these companies, which can organize it in Vienna or in Geneva, but when they organize it in Dubai, the sound system comes from Geneva or from Vienna. And everybody, when you go to Dubai, those guys are all Austrians running the thing in Dubai. No? That is because what they do is not just hire a building, but they manage a community, and they manage it forever. And everyone is specialized. In Chile, they have done this with the mining industry. Say, well, we cannot be the leaders of the world of anything, but in mining we know, so we're going to be specializing in organizing everything that has to do with congresses on the mining industry. So this is a new way to look at the tourism industry. Well, but I'm a hotelier. Well, okay, but your hotel, if it's not in the internet, it doesn't exist. It's hard to say, but it doesn't exist. Okay. I'm old enough to remember when we introduced faxes in the hotels in Spain. And they told me, I got a reservation. People directly made a reservation. It was not the German intermediary that came and bought me the rooms for the whole year. I got one reservation through the fax. We created a program in Galicia to introduce rural tourism, and we gave the fax to every one of these farmers so we could get. And the Galicians are known to be very suspicious, and they say, but if I get a fax, who pays for the call? Today, they are brilliant, short. I would say there are small hotels, not anymore just farmers. There are small hotels in a farm, and they're doing very well. Some of them surviving thanks to that. So this is a great time to think about tourism strategy. Mostly because everything has changed. Everything has changed. I think all these rankings that we are showing, they are obsolete. Because there is a new generation of people coming out which are going to be working in a very different way. And I think you showed us like 2 periods, the previous period and this online period, which shows that things are really changing. You can do it much more customized. Your second publicities were about people that likes this, people that likes that. You are already segmented. We can now segment by very, very narrow groups, people with very specific interests, and we can tell them exactly what you do. Not only cinema lovers, but French cinema lovers. And there is this French cinema week this week here. So that can be done. Information technology allows you to do that. Have you realized when you look something in Google, the other day I put a name of somebody which was not Nigerian, and then it tells me cheap calls to Nigeria automatically, just because I wrote a Nigerian name in my Google. So technologically, we can do a complete different contact with the people. And that's a great advantage of having a country which is very good at information technology, which put together all these things. So it's a great time to think about tourism because there's a game change and there's a moment to find your strategy there. But also there's another great time, and I think this has been pointed out, because you only have one asset, which is your nature and your unspoiled nature. And that asset, it's a one shot. You burn it, you burn it. So you need to think about that. I don't know nobody to tell you about that, but I'm going to go and present you one example from my own experience, which has no parallelism, but to tell you the difficulty we have in changing the things when we don't think ahead. And I'm going to talk to you about an island, volcanic island, in the Canary Islands. It's the island of Lanzarote. Okay, it's a 60 kilometers or 20 kilometers, population 130,000, 2 million tourists per year, 80,000 beds in 4- and 5-star hotels. And this island was next to the bigger islands of Gran Canaria and Tenerife. So in the 1960s, when tourism started in this island, they decided we don't want to be like them. We don't want to be massified. We are different. They started to think strategically. The kind of thinking that I'm seeing here now. We want to do this carefully. We have this. Sure, they started in the 60s. But in the 70s, the pressure for making money was so strong. This is like having a few good guys trying to think about the environment and all this huge mass of economic interest, going against that. And this is what happened. They did a zoning plan, but this zoning plan focused on economic development. We needed jobs, we needed economic development, so we focused on that. In the 80s, the real estate boom was already going through the roof, and then it was only through a citizen's response, and in this case was this Cesar Manriquez, he's an architect and sculptor from the area, and he basically led and wrote a book called Moment to Stop. It's the moment to stop. Okay? And let's say we're tired of listening to excuses to not stop this barbarity. No. So it was this reaction of this guy who led then to the creation in the 90s an attempt to correct what had been done wrong. In 1991, a second plan, urban plan was done, zoning plan, and they canceled 250,000 beds that had been already approved. Okay, so imagine that had not this happened, this island will have not 80,000 beds, but 330,000 beds. Okay, so they canceled that. They introduced legislation saying only 4- and 5-star hotels. We don't want, they make the thing and say, we don't want to use this for hostels or for other hotels. We do this. That's what is the decision, But even so, even passing the law, they still continue building because people were finding legal tricks. My land, how can you tell to somebody that his land has a big value because he's going to make a hotel, that now already his land has zero value because that's protected by to be a green zone. So that's very difficult to make it work backwards. So this César Manrique created a foundation with his own money, with this only purpose, to act as a watchdog to protect the island. You know? And they passed this resolution, it became a biosphere reserve. You know? And in the here, you can see the ones on the top are the land that was scheduled for being built. All these coasts were supposed to be built. All these were supposed to be built in 1973. In 87 it was cut. In 91 it was even cut further. In 2003 it was limited to these 3 areas. So the work that had to be done was basically to go backwards, to tell people that were expecting to be built that they are not going to be built. And even despite of that effort, the red part is what has been built in the island. But at least, you know, we have concentrated. That doesn't mean that we don't want people, but we want it in an orderly way. There are parts of the island which are still, you know, completely wild. So the foundation, César Manrique, is a citizens movement. He is the protagonist of maintaining this. They have a team of lawyers that take to court every time somebody is going to build something. They're winning many of these battles, no? And I'm just putting a slide which is the summary of, this is an interview we made with the citizens of this place, with local citizens. They say the lessons they took for themselves, and a systemic view of tourism, to know well what you have and put it in value, to find the uniqueness of the place. This is what they say, not what I say. Create communication and awareness of the whole community, going village by village. Everybody had to be involved. Well-being is not unlimited growth. They also understood that. And the last one is very interesting. Political instability can risk the sustainability of the island, unless there is a strong citizens movement that monitors and questions. And that's what they've been doing. You know, the politicians in this place are not of very high quality. So therefore, they were, you know, needed to have a group of citizens behind them. And I like this sentence. You know, it's amazing that they said the volcano, which was originally seen as a curse of nature, you know, it's a disgrace. We had a volcano, you know, it can erupt. Now it has turned and it has become an added value, because they say we, the citizens, have learned to see through it, have learned to see it in a different way. No? So this is kind of the exercise that they did in Lanzarote. Had they done it, they tried to do it at the beginning. They failed. It's not so easy. Even if you think that you are protecting it, it's not so easy. Okay. So I go back to your question, and I go back to you. I pass the question back to you. How can you make your country and its assets profitable, because it has to be profitable, and sustainable tourist destination? I leave the question with you, and me and my family, this is my son, enjoying one of your monster trucks. Wish you good luck before you decide to cancel the monster trucks, which was the highlight of our of our stay. But probably it's not going to be very eco-friendly, so I think sooner or later something is going to happen to them. But we enjoyed it. Thank you very much.